Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining the webinar and for your interest today. We have quite the webinar that we're hosting today. We are fortunate enough here at Fortress Power to host a webinar with Emily Fisher from SDCP with a focus on the SDCP program. So today we're going to have around an hour for our discussion. We will be sharing some slides and recording this session. So although note-taking is duly appreciated, make sure that you know that we will have these slides sent out after the fact, and you will get a recording of our presentation here today. So I'll get started here in just a minute. I'm going to wait for any last-minute attendees to come in today. If you do have questions, please input the questions into the questions tab that you'll see on your sidebar or your top bar, depending on where you have it. But input your questions, and we'll do a quick Q&A at the end of the slide deck, at the end of the slide presentation for 10-15 minutes. So thank you again for joining. We'll get started here in just 1 minute. Thank you. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. And we need to do this. SDCP battery program. Perfect. Put my phone on DND. All right, everybody, let's get started. Very punctual here at Fortress Power, as you all know. Again, if you're just jumping in, I see some more folks getting in here. My name is Alex Lepore. I'm the sales director here at Fortress Power. Today, we have teamed up with the San Diego Community Power team, specifically Emily Fisher, who is the Senior Program Manager. I want to let you guys know that we are very grateful to have her here to talk more about the details of this program, and we're looking forward to showing how this program can increase the value of solar and battery systems within this territory. So how this is going to go, well, let me start with this first. Any questions you can input into the question tab. We'll be doing a 10 or 15-minute Q&A after the webinar, after the slides are over. We'll also be able to share the recording of this webinar and the slides after the fact. So although note-taking is appreciated, just take a note of you will get all of this information thereafter. Emily's going to kick us off with the actual program and some of the details therein, talking about some of those details. Then I'm going to take over for the second half of the presentation, talk a little bit about Fortress Power, some of the details as it pertains to Fortress, the solution that is approved to the Avalon whole home battery backup solution. And then, like I mentioned, we will be doing some Q&A. So with that being said, Emily, thank you so much for jumping in here today. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here. I'd like for you to get started on this first slide.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. Appreciate the introduction, Alex. So I will just quickly talk through community choice aggregators, what they are, and then specifically who San Diego Community Power is. So in 2002, California State Legislature enabled community choice aggregators, or CCAs, in California. The legislative bill stated that CCAs would be local, not-for-profit energy providers overseen by local elected officials. While most of the action has been in Northern California, including some of the oldest CCAs like Marin Clean Energy and Sonoma Clean Power, CCAs have started growing in Southern California over the last 5 to 10 years. And there are now more than 25 operating CCAs serving 200 cities and counties throughout the state, delivering over 14,000 megawatts of clean energy to over 14 million customers. You can go to the next slide. So San Diego Community Power is that. We are a community choice aggregator, which means we're a not-for-profit public agency that was formed in 2019 with the cities of San Diego, Chula Vista, Encinitas, La Mesa, and Imperial Beach coming together to establish a joint powers authority. We started serving our first customers in 2021 and completed enrollment of the first round of cities in 2022. And then in 2023, we enrolled the city of National City and then the unincorporated areas of San Diego County as well. So we've continued to provide reliable, cost-competitive electricity to our customers, and we serve about 60% of SDG&E service territory, which makes up about 1 million customers, making us the second largest CCA in the state. You can go on to the next slide. And then how does it work? So we were formed to purchase clean energy on behalf of our communities. So this means that we're different from traditional investor-owned utilities like SDG&E, SCE, and PG&E, and that we don't own or operate the energy grid. For us, that is still handled by San Diego Gas and Electric, or SDG&E. And instead, we purchase the energy needed to supply our customers by contracting directly with renewable energy providers, and that energy is delivered through SDG&E's existing power lines. So this introduces competition and more local control into the energy market, allowing us to negotiate for cleaner and more local energy at competitive rates, and to also reinvest revenues in community projects and programs. So as a community provider of clean electricity, we have the opportunity to support energy efficiency and decarbonization programs, develop more local renewable energy resources in the region, and invest in innovative clean technologies and energy-related job training, which is how we decided to come up with this program. We really wanted to support the industry with the transition to net billing tariff and be able to provide incentives for adding battery storage to homes. And so I'm really excited to listen to the Fortress team present on the program for you and specifically their products. But this program essentially was developed by us, is funded by us. And we are really excited about getting out in the community and supporting our customers and supporting the industry through this. So I will pass it off back to you, Alex, and go ahead.
Thank you, Emily. And I just want to tell for all the folks listening in, it is really a spectacular program. There are other programs we'll even touch base on. This one has me so excited because of the value that it's bringing. And if you're calling in and you don't know about Fortress Power has been in the industry for over 7 years with 35,000 global installations on 5 different continents. So the solution we'll talk about today is more residential, but we have solutions ranging from as small as 5 kilowatt hours all the way to 4.2 megawatt hours, as we do have commercial options available. We do have several energy service opportunities or energy services opportunities in other states. Today's focus is really SDCP, and we've grown our installer network since our inception of the business to over 1,000 installers in the contiguous United States, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico. So we really are not new to energy storage. We're not new to power electronics and equipment. So we want to be your trusted energy storage partner. And in that same vein, our kind of value is that we're going to give you full life cycle support. So things with system design and modeling, co-marketing and sales support, financing options, fleet management, having integrated hardware and software. And obviously the key point of this presentation here today is going to be VPP and energy services, right? Which is going to include, that bet you can guess, SDCP. So that is our whole value. We're not just going to sell you a battery and forget about you. We're not just going to help you with modeling and forget about you. We're going to help you along the way to help you have more successful projects and create more profit. Now, about more profit, our whole thing with the Avalon is the approved battery on the SDCP program is going to be powering more with less. So think about this mantra as I go through the presentation here today. And so if you're an installer partner calling in, it's going to give you access to more projects with a differentiated solution, more profits because of the cost and time savings, more referrals from happy customers, right, using word of mouth marketing. And for my homeowner folks calling in, perhaps to learn more about this program, more features, right, using the ability of load shedding to give you more power to control your usage, more access to energy savings or return on investment opportunities through programs like the SDCP. So keep thinking about powering more with less. And this, in the world today, we're all trying to do more with less. And so Fortress's goal with the Avalon was to help you as an installer or you as a homeowner do more with less with your investment or with your installation. And the Avalon is that complete solution. It's a whole home high voltage ESS that has 3 main boxes. You have the battery down here, the inverter, and the smart energy panel. The battery is 4.9 kilowatt hours. It's wired up in series, comes with a 15-year warranty. It's still lithium iron phosphate, and it's stackable up to 176 kilowatt hours of total capacity. Very big for folks that want to do programs to be outside of SDCP or if they have large split phase homes. Now, you can stack up to 6 high for 30 kilowatt hours. Now, certainly in California, you're going to be capped at 20 kilowatt hours. The good news is 4 of these batteries will give you 19.2 kilowatt hours of capacity. So whether you're installing an SDCP or not, you have that going for you. And then it has the BMS laying on top, and that's how you can parallel several batteries together. The inverter will come in 7.6 or 11.4 kW sizes with 4 MPPTs with the transmitter built in. And really, in my opinion, the coolest part of this package is the smart energy panel. In that smart energy panel, you have a couple key features, including the ability to AC and DC couple at the same time. Having 6 smart load controls for true whole home backup and load shedding, because those breakers can do 6 double pole or 12 single pole breakers. You have the ability to put in a level 2 EV charger as well, along with a generator integration breaker. And being in California, this is a UL certified service panel, allows you to avoid doing main panel upgrades. So as you know, main panel upgrades are very timely and costly when you need to get that permit from the municipality or the city. So having the smart energy panel will help you avoid basically that whole process, so you can then expedite your project and then get to your next project. The battery, I forgot to mention, I just saw it as a bullet point, has fire suppression built into it. So again, we have a very safe chemistry, a very safe modularly stacked battery to be sized true to your customer's need, with then a smart energy panel to do things like load shedding, generator integration, AC and DC coupling, removing the need to do a main panel upgrade, amongst with several other features like fleet management, online monitoring, setting up, scheduling, so on and so forth. So when you purchase and you go with the Fortress Power Avalon, these are the 3 boxes that you're going to get, again, with 2 sized inverters, 1 smart energy panel, and then this battery. We ran a study install. Uh, we ran a study install. We have a 95% round trip efficiency, meaning that you can size your solar systems more concisely, right, and not have to oversize them because of efficiency losses. So that means it's just going to help you even save more time and money by having the ability to use less PV panels on the roof. So the Avalon is quite the package, as I'm sure you're picking up what I'm putting down, in all the features that it has, along with still being relatively cost effective. I put a link down here in the bottom left of this chat. So if you do want to learn more, you can click on this link. It takes you right to all of our online resources, which I'll actually talk about towards the end of our slide deck here today. I want to talk about how energy services, in my belief, is going to be the future of how energy is going to be distributed. And so, although today's focus is on the San Diego Community Power Battery Incentive Program, there are several other programs that were approved with at Fortress Power that provide upfront or ongoing incentives to increase the value for customers. So whether you're in California and you're participating in wholesale markets, you're calling in from San Diego with interest on SDCP today, you're in Utah and Wattsmart, North Carolina for the Power Path program, or Puerto Rico and Luma, Connecticut for the Energy Storage Solutions program. This is a growing kind of differentiator of how it's going to help customers reduce their barrier to entry because of cost. So today's focus is SDCP, but you can trust Fortress in our ability to be a part of all these programs because of the ability of our Keystone software that we have that allows us to communicate with these utility providers, or CCAs, if you will, especially with SDCP at least. So just wanted to mention that you may be calling in from San Diego and you're like, I don't care, but you might be calling in from one of these other states and want to have more interest. Head over to our website. You can see a lot of the details there, or just hit me up, right? I can talk with you more about each individual program or connect you with somebody that can. So the incentive, and we'll go through the actual quantitative numbers here, but it's good to know that the incentive is based on the value provided to SDCP, right? So starting on the left, you have the system owner with the battery, and this Guardian box, or the software box, I'll say, is what's connecting the batteries to the aggregation and control software, which is then being connected to Fortress Power as the service provider. And then at the end of the value chain is going to be San Diego Community Power, that load serving entity. So along this horizontal line here at the bottom, from the system owner to the community power program, this is where the exchange of power and ultimately funding is going to come, because of the power that's being discharged that's provided back to SDCP. We'll see how that looks in more details, but I wanted to give you the 30,000-foot view of how it actually works with all the stakeholders in this process. And so it is known, or it's going to be known, that SDCP has one of the best battery incentives in the US. And where it starts off is that at the market rate, it's giving an upfront incentive of $350 per kilowatt hour, right? And we'll look at when you equivalent the Avalon and you use 14.7 kilowatt hours, you take 14.7 times 350. And I don't know that math off the top of my head. I'm not a math wizard, but I can tell you it's quite a chunk of change, right? And if you're operating in a care or FERA, or communities of concern, you'll see they not only have a solar upfront incentive, but they've increased the value of the storage upfront incentive. In addition to that, there's a performance incentive of 10 cents per kilowatt hour that is then calculated based on the actual performance of the dispatch during peak periods for 2 hours between the 4 to 9 p.m. So this is a daily event for 2 hours, and participants can select their percentage of battery's usable capacity to enroll in the program, with that minimum requirement being 50%. So there is an interesting note here, is that if you do decide to unenroll in the program, it is certainly possible, but there is a prorated clawback associated with that incentive if you choose to enroll within the first 5 years. However, the incentive is really good, so you may not want to unenroll because of the incentive, and that incentive can go up to $10,000 of the incentive to help you receive a more aggressive return on investment or just reduce your cost. So definitely one of the best battery program incentives in the United States so far, with a lot of opportunities to grow. So they being SDCP, plan on using the battery daily. So you guys have seen the duck curve before, right? With the solar here in this nice yellow. So daily consumption here, where the customer is paying for energy, right? You have the duck curve. The solar is generating power on the site as well. And so you have, during these on-peak times and your battery is charged, the battery is discharging to site, aka the load, right? And then in the second period, the remaining 50% of 80% depth of discharge, right, is the battery discharging to the grid, i.e. to the SDCP group, I guess, in a word. So this is where you're fulfilling the load during on-peak times from, let's say, 4 o'clock to looks like 7, and then from 7 to 9 it's discharging back to the grid, and then that's how it's going to calculate your performance incentive at that 10 cents per kilowatt hour value. So they're using the battery daily, and so when you see 50% here and 50%, it is 50% of 80% depth of discharge, right? Because we have a 15-year warranty, 8,000 cycles, 80% depth of discharge. We're taking basically half of that. I'm hoping you're understanding what I'm saying as I'm explaining this. And then you wake up the next day, and then you come back into the charging throughout the duck curve, and then the whole thing, with their discharging it at 50% increments from to load and then back to the grid. So it's a little bit different of a usage, but you'll see they're still able to use some of the battery for their load. And if they're on a time of use rate, it can offset some of those costs, right? Certainly depends on your customer, but it does give you the ability to tell you, speak to how you can use that. Let's say during, let's say 16 o'clock is 4 to 7, right? My time of use right here, I think, is 5 to 8. So you could use that in a way that it fits your customer's need. I mean, I'm in LA, I'm not in San Diego, but nonetheless, you can see how it's very powerful with that incentive. So we did some calculation here based on the MSRP cost of the Avalon system here with a single and 2 battery stack. And you'll see that incentive goes all the way up to $10,000. And with larger systems, you're getting a heck of a rebate, $10,000 upfront incentive with a performance incentive of $5,710, which is assuming 10 years of incentives using that 50% of that capacity, which means it's a 69% incentive to cost ratio, right, based on the MSRP of this Fortress Power system, right? And this is not even assuming other increases in the value or rate hikes or utility hikes. This is just, let's say, benchmarking how much that folks can save based on their MSRP costs when they invest in an Avalon system and they register for SDCP. Larger battery systems seem to be a little bit better. Certainly smaller systems have a little bit lower of an incentive cost ratio, but at the end of the day, it's still, $6,280 off of an MSRP of $11,870. It's still, 53%. Very, 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 I think, attractive if you're a homeowner, knowing that you're going to get 50% or more off of your investment when you purchase a solar and storage system. Furthermore, you can leverage the 30% ITC tax credit and have a battery storage system that pays for itself, right? So we take this example from this slide, right? 22,630 for a 7.6 and 19.6 kilowatt hour system, or two 19.6s, sorry. MSRP for 22,630. The upfront incentive we calculated was 10 G's. The tax credit is 66,789, and you get this, remember, this performance incentive of $571. Along with doing those peak period energy savings, i.e. NEM3 optimization, excuse me, you can see that by year, I'll be even conservative, by year 4, you are fully in the green, right? Your value that you're profiting is in the green by year 4 when you're leveraging things like the ITC. Imagine going out to a customer and telling them, hey, this is going to pay itself off in less than 5 years, and you're still going to be able to use this to offset the cost of your home, get an incentive from SDCP, leverage the tax credit and additional incentives. This is a home run. And I calculated this out to 15 years because we have a 15-year warranty on our batteries, guys. So 15-year warranty, you'll see the cumulative value at year 15 is $21,000. $21,000. Wow, that's impressive. That is really impressive. Larger systems, we notice, do have a faster payback and provide more value. So although that initial sticker shock may kick in, look at how basically aggressive by year 5 is when you're able to offset the cost of the purchase of at least the battery system. This does not include solar. This is just the battery, but still pretty impressive in my point of view. We talked about the sets of customers that are eligible to take advantage of this sort of cash flow analysis. And one of them are the California alternate rates for our Genergy or CARE programs. You then have the Family Electric Rate Assistance or FERA programs, FERA. We have some more information through these links here that you can click. I'm not going to go through all of these for the sake of time, but there's a lot of information here on who qualifies in both of these programs. And then we have communities of concern. And communities of concern are what we call disadvantaged communities or low-income communities that have an income at or below 80% of the statewide median. Certainly that's when you have this sort of payback, those disadvantaged communities have more incentives to invest in solar and batteries. So we're not just focusing on the other end of the socioeconomic bell curve, if you will. So these are the 3 sets of customers. I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can see in the territories that Emily highlighted earlier, there are 3 sets of these customers that are eligible for even more that we talked about here in this slide, right? Which includes a solar upfront incentive along with a storage upfront incentive. To be eligible, you have to be an active SDCP residential customer. You must own a single family home where the battery is going to be installed. It must be interconnected and permitted, can't be off grid, okay? It must be fully charged by on-site solar. It cannot be participating in another VPP program. And it can be owned by a homeowner or TPO, third-party ownership, and it must be installed by an approved contractor. The approved contractor list, I believe, can be found on the SDCP website, right, Emily?
Yep, that's correct.
Perfect. Must be installed by an approved contractor. We're going to talk about contractor requirements here, but if you're a homeowner calling in, these are what you need to get started to capture all the value from this program, right? So depending on your location, you also need to have these check boxes figured out or checked off, so that way you can take advantage and get started today when getting through the SDCP program or getting the benefits of the SDCP program. Now, if you're a contractor, hi contractors, you have an application, all right, good old application. We need your company contact information, years of experience, number of batteries installed. You have to have a C10 or C46. We need your office address. You have to be SGIP registered, your ACH, and then there's that JOT form here at the top that you'll fill out. I think there's several contractors, more than several. There's quite a few contractors that have already signed up already. And so if you have not signed up and you want to give it a go, fill out the contractor application. And I believe the SDCP team is rather quick to get back to you guys with either feedback on your application and let you guys know what's going on. Is that right, Emily? Am I missing anything here from a contractor requirements and due process of approval?
Yeah, right now we are a little bit behind in terms of contractor review just because of the program launch. But it's supposed to be a turnaround of 10 business days. But just kind of a little warning, it may be a couple days longer due to the overwhelming number of applications we're going through for participants right now.
Perfect. Very good to know. So getting started today is certainly the best way. We got RE Plus coming up next week, right? So we're all going to be busy at RE Plus in Anaheim, having a good old fashioned time, talking shop on batteries. So if you have some time today, I know we had Labor Day this past week, short week. It's definitely good to get started early. Let these guys have their time to go through their review process. So in that review process, first we design the system, right? You go through, I think SDCP has a pretty nice sizing calculator that you can use in order to design that system. You reserve the funds for that particular system, and you receive that reservation of funds email within 2 to 3 weeks. You then commission the system, getting permission to operate or PTO. You submit your completion application, and then the customer receives the check. So it's a very straightforward flow process. I think the biggest one is the reservation of the funds email, which will take 2 to 3 weeks, which is where that proper communication with your homeowner or customer is going to be really important. So you manage expectations, right? That it doesn't, Rome was not built in a day. It doesn't happen overnight. But I believe, Emily, SDCP does have this sizing tool on your website that folks can use when they size systems with Fortress.
Yeah, so once you become an approved contractor, we'll grant you access to the portal where you can go through and essentially submit each project. And through the portal, we have a templates page that includes, the participant application or the participant enrollment application, specific battery manufacturer T's and C's, and then additional to that is the calculator for making sure these projects are sized appropriately.
Perfect. And is the website? I believe I had the website somewhere. What's the website? Is it sdcp.org?
So our main webpage is, sdcommunitypower.org. And so within there, you can look at the top bar that has programs. And if you click on programs, the first thing that'll pop up underneath it is the solar battery savings. So if you click on that, it'll lead you to our webpage, which has a general overview of the program, the budget status, and then the customer eligibility, some more program details, contractors that are enrolled, battery manufacturers that enrolled, and then FAQs at the bottom. But then our portal is a different link that is only available for approved contractors. So once you become approved, we will send you an email saying, here's your approval, some messaging in regards to like marketing the program. And then we will provide you with the portal access at that same time. It'll just be a separate email right after.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Emily.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also use Open Solar. Open Solar is another proposal tool, I believe, that has these values built in and the Avalon. And so you can actually use Open Solar through SDCP or not. SDCP has their own, but Open Solar has been a partnership that we've also recommended that I've actually used that you can use and select the Fortress Power battery, size your photovoltaic array, and then plug in the incentives from things like the SDCP program to generate accurate and professional proposals for your end users. It is a free program, and free is for me, well, free 99. We love that. And so I'd always recommend Open Solar to folks if they maybe want to corroborate their design from SDCP's tool, or if they hit me up and they want to make sure that the sizing is right. So Open Solar is another very good resource that you guys can use for sizing and designing. That's obviously one of the most important things when it comes to solar and batteries is sizing and designing. Manage expectations, provide what the customer is actually looking for, solve their pain, rather than just throwing glass on roof. As we've seen, that's not really the best way to go to market sometimes. Another thing about Fortress Power is technical support that supports you. So we have different training programs, online articles, support teams on both coasts, also here in California. A very, very good warranty program. Like I mentioned, our Avalon has a 15-year warranty, best in class in the industry right now. We have a Fortress Power app that gives you access to different manuals, monitoring, fleet management, help you guys reduce the amount of truck rolls that y'all have, give you a better customer experience, give you those referrals to help you build a more durable business in this challenging time in the solar coaster. So we are here to help you have a smooth installation and commissioning process. That is not me touching all those crazy wires, so you guys wouldn't want to see that, but nonetheless, we do a lot of this sort of testing and support with our contracting folks. So with that said, not bad on timing, 30 minutes. We went through a lot today, right? So I will open the floor for questions here in just a sec, but let's take a recap of what we went through. First, Emily spoke about CCAs. What is a CCA? SDCP as a CCA, and the program program as a whole and which geographic regions it's operating in. I then took over and then talked about the Avalon system, right? The Avalon system is an all-in-one ecosystem with the battery, inverter, and smart energy panel for more features such as load management or very simple features just as simple as critical load backup and avoiding a main panel upgrade, right? With a stackable battery with a 15-year warranty. We then talked about the actual program, how it works, right? SDCP is going to daily cycle that battery during on-peak times, right? And you can use part of your cycle for your load and part of your cycle to fulfill the SDCP requirements. I went through a cash flow analysis showing that with the MSRP of our Avalon and leveraging the tax credit with the SDCP rebate and the performance incentive, right? We're looking at less than 5-year payback for folks that invest or homeowner folks that invest in the system. We talked about other eligible incentives being care communities, BARA communities, and disadvantaged communities that we spoke about. And then lastly, we talked about some of the requirements that some of the requirements to make it started, whether you're a homeowner calling in, some of the requirements needed here that you'll need to check off the boxes, or if you're a contractor, new or existing, that wants to become an SCHIP approved or SCHIP, SDC approved contractor for this particular program. We talked about the flow, sizing, designing, and then again, the value of working with Fortress is that we're an all-in-one ecosystem with support, been around for a while, and we definitely know a thing or two about a thing or two as it relates to batteries. So with that said, I will open it up for questions. I'm gonna hopefully end the screen share here, and we'll open it up for questions on the program. I see we have another surprise guest, Brian London, our VP of Energy Services, calling in here. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing great now that you're here. Goodness. How did you like the presentation today, Brian? Anything that you'd like to add? Obviously, we covered a lot. Emily had a great introduction to the program and the CCA. Anything from your vantage point, folks? Brian's our VP of Energy Services, so he's the one who is really doing a lot of the legwork for programs like SDCP or WattSmart or the wholesale markets. Anything that you'd like to add, Brian, on the presentation today?
I think the only thing that I would like to reiterate is when you were talking about using the battery during the peak period of time, there was those 3 hours of just matching self-consumption, and then those last 2 hours where we're outputting the rest of the remaining available capacity for the daily discharge, that's still being offsetting load. So it is still using, the customers are still able to offset their consumption during the peak period and really getting to have additional value from the SDCP program. That's why we see it as being such a great program that can really benefit all of the homeowners and all ratepayers.
Yeah, and folks, I think when you choose, if you're a homeowner, right, and even if you're in the solar industry and you're a homeowner, right, you can choose. At least in LA, I can choose my TOU schedule and I can choose 4 to 9. So remember that one slide I had, and it has from 4 to 7 is when they're offsetting to the load. If you chose your TOU plan to be 4 to 9, imagine from 4 to 7, you're discharging the battery to load during part of your peak time. The other part of your peak time is from 7 to 9. You're probably not using a lot of power unless you're doing late dinner or every TV is on in your house. But you can use during those peak times when everybody's getting home during that dinner hour. You're cooking dinner, kids are running around, your pets are running around, maybe causing power. I don't know. But nonetheless, you can see how it can leverage during 2 time zones to help you save money on cost of power, but then making sure you're fulfilling the SDCP requirements. Very, very advantageous. Very advantageous. So here, I'll actually go share it because, picture's worth 1,000 words. So this slide right here that I had. Sorry, gang. There we go. So on this slide right here, I'm just going to keep it up. This slide right here is where, let's say if you did, okay. I already said all these notes. So let's say right here, this would be A, right? You discharge during 4 to 7. If you choose your 4 to 9 rate structure, you would be offsetting the load cost during this time, otherwise known as NEM3 optimization, we'll call it. And then secondarily, you have then the SDCP where it's going to the grid, and that remaining 50% of the 80% depth of discharge is going back to the grid. but the majority of your cost that you can save is during your 4 to 7 during the dinner hour when you're cooking, cleaning, watching TV, playing games in your hot tub. I don't know, whatever you end up doing in the afternoon. But you can see how it's dual faceted during the on-peak time from 4 to 9. Interesting analysis, Brian. Really well said on your part. And then, Brian, we went through a little bit of the I'll call it the cash flow analysis, and just looking at how impressive it is that by year 5, particularly, the value of the program is over $3,500, and how the annual incentives are kicking butt out here. $571 a year in annual incentives, and then you'll see it's actually depreciating peak period energy savings over the cost of 15 years, which cost of power is going up. So you could make a case saying that, hey, these savings should go higher over the course of the next 15 years, depending on any rate hikes that the utilities will incur on their customers. Talk about the 3 communities and then the different requirements. Any questions? Let me jump into the question thing. I see we have Chris. Hey, Chris. Hey, Steve. Hey, Jim. Hey, Mike. Thanks for joining here, you guys. You can't hear me. I can't hear you, Jim, because I'm on presenter mode, but I see you. How are you doing? Any questions, comments, or concerns? A typical question, a typical question I get is the unenrollment. And so I think the unenrollment thing is within the first 5 years, it's a clawback of the value. I think at that point, your customer may not even want to. But I know that has been a concern with contractors, is that unenrollment process. Emily, is that unenrollment process all done through the SDCP website when if a contractor has to recommend that to a homeowner?
If a customer does want to unenroll, we're currently having them call our call center, and then we will unenroll them. And then if it obviously is within that first 5 years, we would have the clawback in place.
Sure.
So they'd be subject to the clawback, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, understood. So you guys have to call in to get that, just as a note for y'all when you do that. So any other further questions, you can certainly reach out to me or Emily or the Fortress Power team or the SDCP team. Again, I can be reached at alexl@fortresspower.com. Emily's email will be on the slides here today. It's efisher@sdcommunitypower.org. That is also their website, sdcommunitypower.org, where you can get all the resources on the SDCP program and the other requirements for a homeowner or a contractor partner. So with that being said, if there are no more questions, thank you guys for your time here today. Brian, thank you for jumping on, little surprise guest. Emily, thank you so much for co-hosting this with us and for all the support you've given Fortress Power in working with us for this particular program. We're very grateful, and we're looking forward to seeing some Fortress systems out there in this program. So we're stoked.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate everybody who's attendance, and thank you, Alex, for presenting.
Yeah, of course, my pleasure, guys. Thanks, Jim. I see that hand. Thank you, my man. Have a good one, you guys. Thanks again.